We hear a lot today about generational differences. Boomers, the generation of the post-war baby boom, who grew up with optimism, economic growth, and one TV channel. And Zoomers, Generation Z, like me, grew up with a phone in their hand, doom scrolling, and brain rot. Sometimes, it feels like we're not two different generations. We're two different species. But why are these two generations so divided? Just because we share different birthdays, had different tech toys, and different social media, should we let technology and media marketing define us? Or can we go beyond the boomer and zoomer media bubbles and get to know each other as people who all share the same space? So one day, I decided to go beyond my generational comfort zone. So instead of going home to do my homework or text my friends, I decided I wanted to get to know some boomers and some even older folks from the silent generation. I know these people exist, because I Googled it, but also because I have a grandfather. He is from the silent generation, but he's not so silent. We talk a lot on WhatsApp. He calls it the telephone. But grandparents are family. They're not the same as meeting boomers and silent gen folks as people. So where do I find boomers and silent gen folks to talk to? Where do they exist outside of the internet and grandparent land? Aha! Retirement homes, or EHPADs. They have a special acronym for them in France, Établissement d'hébergement pour personnes âgées dépendantes. I Googled the addresses of a few, and then I got on my bike and rang the bell at a few in my neighborhood. And this is the first thing I learned. It's really hard to get into old people's spaces. They're like fortresses. Big, fancy castles with high walls, gates, and security guards. Oh wait, that's kind of like my school. So, I guess boomers and zoomers share similar spaces, but separate ones. Kids aren't allowed in retirement homes, and adults aren't allowed in schools. So finally, after sending lots of emails, meeting with managing directors, making phone calls, and doing lots and lots of paperwork, I found one retirement home happy to invite me in and spend some time talking. And there, I met some really cool friends. Madame de la Barre, who at only 17 years old went off to Algeria to become a school teacher, and whose father was a prisoner of war during World War II. Or even Madame Duplex, who was in Paris in May '68 when people were marching for women's rights. Madame Duplex didn't have the opportunity to meet Marie Jobonnet, who was one of the founders of the MLF, which is the Mouvement de Libération des Femmes. But I was lucky enough to do a Zoom interview with her. She told me all about the struggle and excitement of fighting for equal rights. I asked them, which generation had it harder? Their generation or mine? Boomers or Zoomers? And you know what they said? Zoomers. Why? Not because of the economy or even climate change, but because of internet, TikTok, and Instagram. I was shocked. I mean, these women live through some very difficult times. Wars, revolutions, not being able to open your own bank account without your husband or father's approval. And they think that instant messaging and viral cat memes are worse? Okay, boomer. But that got me thinking, how do we find a shared space where we struggle and fight together without calling for a revolution or marching the streets? The answer came to me one day when the retirement home held a boxing match. Not real boxing in a ring, but play boxing, with mitts and big puffy pads to keep strong and fit. I held the big puffy pad, and Madame de la Barre punched away. She had a pretty strong right hook, and even hit me in the nose once. It didn't hurt, but we both laughed until our muscles got sore. Boxing with Madame de la Barre made me think, maybe solidarity doesn't only mean being in total agreement with each other and fighting side by side to care for the spaces we share, like our schools, our retirement homes, our community, our world, planet Earth. Solidarity might also mean seriously play fighting with and against each other, not to overcome our differences, but to use our differences to make everybody and each generation stronger. Maybe what we need to do to maintain contact with the world and with each other is to find a different shared space. We need to go beyond schools and retirement homes, marching the streets or posting on Instagram. Maybe we need to go to the gym. Unlike schools and retirement homes, gyms are really easy to get into. Young and old people can work out together, mixing old-fashioned human contact and new technology. So young people like me can get fit and healthy before we get old. And old people can stay fit and healthy and save the government from going bankrupt spending their money on healthcare. And believe me, governments need saving. Right now, an enormous chunk of public money in rich countries is spent on healthcare for seniors. And that share is just going to balloon as we all live longer. But what if all you boomers stayed on the job just a little longer? Instead of retiring at 60 and spending an average of 24 years in retirement, if people in the OECD countries just worked a year or two longer, we could boost annual GDP growth by at least 0.2% each year. Now that's real money, saved by staying strong. And instead of busting the budget on healthcare, we could spend just a little bit of money on schools and childcare. So it's not just about TikTok versus black and white TV. It's about creating spaces where we share health and wealth. Think about this. Since the mid-1990s, wealth for people 55 and older has been higher than it has been for young people. And the poverty risk? It has actually shifted away from my grandma and my grandpa towards me and towards kids. So young people can't afford to buy a home anymore because the cost of everything, especially houses, has skyrocketed. But we can still afford a gym membership. Okay, so everybody here loves their screen time, right? Take a look at this graph. It's not just us Zoomers glued to our phones. Boomers are racking up the screen time too. New data shows that radio and TV for people in their 50s and 60s has been steady. But they've added hours of social media, gaming, and streaming on top of that. In fact, if you combine traditional TV with their smartphones, tablets, and computers, people of retirement age actually clock up more screen time than us young adults. See? We all share the same spaces, even in our bad habits. And these bad habits are seriously damaging our health. The science says that if you spend over 2 hours of recreational screen time a day, you're almost 2 times more likely of being overweight or obese. So let's skip the TV, TikToking, and Instagramming and doom scrolling, and let's go to the gym. Me, Madame Duplex, and Madame de la Barre didn't make it to the gym together. But boxing against each other and laughing together was still a great exercise in solidarity and resistance training. We had an intense workout that also felt calm and serene. So maybe that's what we need to work together to face all the big issues in our world. Resistance training in intense serenity. Exercise in revolutionary calm. Now, I visit my friends at their retirement home every week. Sometimes we talk about sports, sometimes we talk about the books we like. Edgar Allan Poe still hasn't gone out of fashion. We still have different opinions and ways of doing things. But most importantly, we agree how silly these generational names are and how important solidarity and laughter are in getting through life. So whether we are boomers or zoomers, let's lift our eyes from our screens, get out of our chairs, and get moving. Lift some weights, put on some boxing gloves, do some resistance training. And above all, exercise your muscles as much as your social skills. Go beyond your comfort zone and talk face to face with people. Our future selves and our world will be grateful. Thank you.